Good evening and welcome. The big story that we've been tracking through the day, startling revelation by the Chief of the Indian Air Force, Air Chief Marshal AP Singh, where for the first time he's come out with detailed statements where he says that during Op Sindoor, 6 Pakistani aircraft were shot down by the Indian Air Force, besides which there were aircraft which were targeted on the ground as well, which were destroyed inside hangars. We're going to be bringing you all of those details. It's taken a few months, but the Indian Air Force Chief, in a talk in Bengaluru today, has come out with some of the most startling details on the success of India's operations during Op Sindoor. This is evidence that the Indian Air Force says is absolutely clear. Not 1 or 2, but 6 Pakistani aircraft, including an AWACS aircraft, knocked out on the sky. But what we can do right now is actually talk a little bit, and we're going to be playing out what the Air Chief said in just a moment from now. But before that, let's have the pictures on your screen. F-16 aircraft, that's been the mainstay of the Pakistan Air Force for an extended period of time. It is believed that some F-16 aircraft were knocked out in Jacobabad on the ground. Whether any of these were intercepted in the air by S-400 surface-to-air missile systems, we do not know. Let's bring you images, other images as well. Let's go through all of the fighter aircraft. This is perhaps the most significant one today. This is a Saab Eri. This is one of the most advanced radar warning aircraft that the Pakistanis operate. It is the most advanced. They operate a less advanced Chinese variant as well. And what the Indian Air Force Chief did say is that at a range of 300 kilometers, which would be a record, one of those Eris was intercepted by this system. This is the S-400 surface-to-air missile system. It has a range of up to 400 kilometers. The S-400 was used to fire its missiles up to a range of approximately 300 kilometers in this case, and it is believed that a Pakistani AWACS or an intelligence gathering aircraft, a large platform, was actually knocked out. So there were 6 planes which were knocked out. Some of those could have been jets like this, the Mirage 3 and the Mirage 5, or very significantly, the J-10, which the Pakistanis use. This is their frontline aircraft, possibly the F-16 itself, though he did talk about F-16 losses on the ground. These are some of the frontline aircraft that the Pakistanis operate. We do not know which aircraft were knocked down, but it was the S-400 surface-to-air missile system which did knock out all of the aircraft that I've mentioned. Now, the Air Force Chief has come out with these details at a time and place of his choosing. He's done it several months after Op Sindoor, the military action over there, actually ended. But let's also talk a little bit about the ground strikes which did take place, because there is new footage which has now emerged as well. This is actually from a loitering drone, and you can see the target over here. This is of the Arifwala radar. You can also see images over here of before and after the attack, before attacking over here and an after attack right below. And the Indian Air Force says that this radar head was damaged. This is new evidence coming in of the extent of the Indian Air Force strikes. Let's move to the next couple of images that we see. This is the Chunia radar. Again, this radar has been damaged. It's blackened out in the top, so that's been damaged as well. The next image that you're going to see on your screen is of the Noor Khan Air Force Base in Chaklala. We've spoken about this in the past, but this used to be a command and control center over here where drone operations used to be guided. The next image that you see, and these are now getting quite significant, is the UAV hub in Sukur, and this is actually the Rahim Yar Khan Pakistan Air Force Base. Many areas were struck over here. Let's go to the next image. The next image here, this is Bholari, the most startling image. This is the entire Bholari Air Base. And the Indian Air Force Chief today said that not only was an AWACS platform of Pakistan struck in the air, it was likely struck in this particular hangar. Now let's give you a couple of detailed images of this hangar, because let's go back to the previous page, please. This is really, really significant, because this is what the hangar looked like before the attack took place, and this is what it looked like post the attack taking place. It is believed, according to the Air Force Chief, that there was a Pakistani radar aircraft, an AWACS aircraft, which actually went in over here. It taxied into this, and let's fix the focus on this particular shot. Went in over here, and it was destroyed by an Indian attack. Let's go through the next couple of images as well. This is Jacobabad. This is particularly significant. It is over here that it is believed that F-16s under maintenance were destroyed by the Indian Air Force. A massive hit, this as important and as impressive as the Bholari image which we saw earlier on. So let's go again to the other couple of images. This is Sukur. It's a UAV hub. There was a radar installation which was struck, but perhaps more importantly, this area which has been flattened is where there was a hangar for drones, large drones presumably of the Pakistan Air Force, which was taken out. So the Air Force Chief talking about a lot of these targets. But what we can do at this stage is listen in to what the Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal AP Singh has had to say.
The SAGW systems, mostly from, I'm talking about fighter aircraft are from S-400. We have at least 5 fighters confirmed kills and 1 large aircraft, which could be either an Elint aircraft or an AWNC aircraft, which was taken out at a distance of about 300 kilometers. This is the actually largest ever recorded surface-to-air kill that we can talk about. And apart from, of course, there are a large number of UAVs, drones. There are some of their missiles which have fallen in our territory. We have recovered a lot of wreckage from this, which now is being studied so that we can make out what did they do, where were they launched from, what route did they follow, what kind of system do they have, whether they have, what generation those systems belong to, what all features do they have. So that study is going on, and it is going on even in coordination with DRDO. There was very clear political will, very clear directions which were given to us, and there were no kind of restrictions which were put on it. There have been talks about, was there any restriction, were you kept constrained? If there were any constraints, they were self-made. We, the forces, decided what will be our rules of engagement. We, the forces, decided what will be the escalation ladder that we want to ride on. We decided how we want to control the escalation. So I want to make it very clear, there were no, I repeat, no restrictions on us. Full freedom was given to us to plan and execute. I must say that, that our attacks have been calibrated because we wanted to be mature about it. A little bit on that I'll come to later. There was synchronization between forces. All 4 of us, CDS, the 3 chiefs. I must say here that the post of CDS has made a difference there. He was there always to get us together, discuss things out, iron things out. NSA played a very, very big role, in getting all the other agencies and forces together.
I'm joined now by my colleague Shiv Arur, also by Air Marshal Anil Khosla, Angad Singh, a defense expert, very well known as an air power expert, Group Captain Ajay Ahlawat, and Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. Shiv, let me come to you first. That last statement by the Air Force Chief which we saw, where he said that there was no restraint, he did things the way he wanted. How significant is that remark in the context of what we've seen recently in Parliament?
Well, given that the Indian Air Force Chief is a man who is well known to call a spade, he has frequently disturbed and upset the status quo. He has, quite often and in our recent memory, rubbed the system and establishment the wrong way. I would believe what he says. This is a man who has demonstrated that he doesn't really care about ecosystems and troll armies and narratives and things like that. And this sounded to me very much like a soldier calling it out. He was quite rueful about having to convince our own people. He spoke very much like a man in blue. He was talking about how having to convince our own people was something that occupied the Air Force's time in the past. He was talking about Balakot. And this time he talked about no matter what people seem to be suggesting, and he very sort of ruefully said everyone seems to have an opinion, but it seemed like it was the right time for him to come out and say this entire suggestion that his hands were tied or the Air Force's hands were tied was ridiculous, that there was a tactical framework in which the Air Force was acting. No Air Force, certainly not the Indian Air Force, is going to go in with all its air power on display from day one itself. Were any aircraft shot down? Sure, this has been suggested in the past as well. You've reported it as well. But as far as the Air Force's actions are concerned, I think he's made it very clear that there was no question of hands being tied, any political restraint. On the contrary, he said there was total political will and freedom of operations given to the Air Force today.
Shiv, there's an interesting tidbit of information which has come in, which we didn't discuss earlier on in the day. Shiv and I have been talking about this all day. Let me bring in Air Marshal Khosla on this to a specific question on whether the Akash surface-to-air missile system or the MRSAM surface-to-air missile system was actually used. Those are also in India's arsenal. The chief actually said that no, it never got down to that because the S-400s knocked down whatever they had to. How significant has the addition of the MRSAM? Let me put that to Air Marshal Anil Khosla. How significant is the addition of the S-400 to the Indian Air Force?
Yeah, Vishnu, Chief, actually I attended the talk in the morning today, and relating to your specific question of what he mentioned was the air defense system, the whole ecosystem of air defense, we call it integrated air defense system, worked very well. The radars as well, all the weapons of different ranges, they worked in very well. And of course, he praised the S-400 as a game changer, and he brought out, like you also covered, that aircraft was shot down by S-500, and a sort of a record of a big aircraft being shot down at almost 300 kilometers. As far as MRSAM and Akash system is concerned, he mentioned about them also that they performed very well, and they were instrumental in utilizing some of the long-range vectors and which were thrown at us from Pakistan side. So he praised the entire AD system as such, and he made specific mention for Akash and S-400 and MRSAM as well.
Okay. Angad, in terms of what we are now hearing, 6 Pakistani aircraft, including an AWACS platform, knocked down, how does this turn the entire narrative on its head?
I think, Vishnu, it's a welcome piece of information. And I personally think the AWACS skill is the most important. Manned tactical aircraft always suffer in skirmishes like this, and I expect it to do so. So a welcome piece of information, but I still think that I hesitate to use the word irrelevant, but certainly less important in the grand scheme of things, because OCA, offensive counter-air, is still the holy grail of air operations. Neutralizing enemy air power on the ground before you even have to face it in the air. That's the holy grail of air power, of the application of air power. And the Indian Air Force has already comprehensively demonstrated that in May, and dominated the OCA landscape, hitting all its targets, all the bases that the Air Chief mentioned, while Pakistan was unable to hit a single target on our side of the border.
In fact, Air Marshal Khosla, let's talk a little bit about that offensive air power. Where the Indian Air Force took out not just hangars and in the process destroyed aircraft to the ground, but also for the first time we are seeing some new images of strikes on radar installations. There were several, and let's have the images up on our screen. How significant would those be?
Yeah, so Vishnu, like Chief brought out and he summed it up that almost 6 radars, big and small, were attacked, 2 command and control centers were attacked, 3 hangars were attacked, 2 runways were attacked. So, and he said all the airfields were attacked from north, south, east to west. And what he mentioned was, which is rightly we also discussed earlier, that the message was very, very clear. And it was not that one airfield was decimated totally and all the target systems, which I call it, on the airfield were destroyed on one particular airfield. Here the message was very clear that we are attacking all your airfields. We can hit you wherever you are. Number 2, by attacking different types of targets at different places, from hangars to command and control center, even underground installations, the message was that we can hit every type of target and wherever it is located. And that, I think, message went strength 5. And that's when I think Pakistan realized that the damage can be extensive, and that's when they called for halting the operations.
Shiv, why did the Air Chief make these remarks now? Why did he not make them before, let's say, the Parliament session? Shiv, can you hear me? All right, I'll come back to Shiv in a moment, but Group Captain Helawat, how would you look at that, the timing of these remarks?
Well, the timing is significant. Amongst various things the chief said, he essentially said, don't look at the story, look at the message. The message is the story, that we could hit Pakistan across the length and the breadth. PAF was hiding on the night of 9th and 10th. If this information had come a little bit earlier, it would have made a significant difference to the narrative battle, as Angad said. It is important now. It is very important to people who study air power, but it is less important in the narrative war. This lecture was planned on this date. I mean, Chief would speak at the opportunity given to him. It is my reading that if these things had come out a couple of days earlier, it would have taken up some more time in Parliament when the subject of Op Sindoor was discussed. But my narrow point before we move on is that all of us have been saying for a while, lie has speed and truth has endurance. So finally, the truth is emerging. We all believed it all along. And after the chief has spoken, I think he'll put the whole debate to rest now.
Shiv, the timing of these remarks, I find that really interesting. This chief appear to be under any pressure whatsoever. He could have said this on day one. He chose not to.
After Operation Sindoor, Vishnu, and I'm sure everyone will agree with me, if you want to ascribe a certain motive to a timing of what is being said, and if you look hard enough, you will be able to ascribe that motive, no matter what that action is. So for the Air Chief, it's a bit of a sitter, isn't it? It's right in the middle of Parliament. He's banged out these specifics as far as how many aircraft were actually killed. This has happened right after the Sindoor debate, and therefore there are all these aspects which can be used to suggest that there is a specificity beyond just the LM Khatre memorial lecture to which the Air Force chief is responding to. I don't think so. I think the Air Force must have its not having put this in.
Shiv, we are losing your line. I'll come back to you in a moment. Let me go across to General Rakesh Sharma. General, we keep talking about this narrative war. That's all very well. That's how things play out on social media now. People decide winners and losers on social media, messages. Some are fabricated, some are not fabricated. But in terms of the actual war fighting, because this was a war, I mean, if you were hitting targets 100 kilometers in Pakistani Punjab, then it is a war. Simple as that. Yeah. At the end of the day, forget the narrative. India won Op Sindoor. That's the key message, right?
Thank you, Vishnu, for inviting me. And yes, you're right. It's a key message that we had the power to do what we wanted to do in the air as also on the ground, which was proven in these 88 hours or something. What has come out today is something to be proud of, and proud of the Air Force of what they have achieved. Having said that, the issue that you raised about narrative. See, there are narratives. Narratives are lies and truths and half-truths. But this is a truth. This is the truth which is known to us from the day one. If we launched 6 S-400 missiles, we knew we launched the missile. If the missile was a dud, it would have fallen down on the ground. If it had not hit a target, it would have fallen down on the ground, and the Pakis would have made immense amount of noise, like we made a noise about finding a PL-15 near Batinda or somewhere like that. So Pakistani didn't make a noise that we found a missile, which means obviously the missiles found their target, hit the enemy aircraft, and if aircraft would have gone down. And naturally, there's no narrative involved here. This was a truth that needs to be said. Now, like most countries in the world, the Air Forces also rely on RNAW or their CIA or other agencies to get the confirmed kill. When they get confirmed kill, they actually say that this has been this is the truth. But on day one, they start saying that something has been achieved. President Trump came up and said, okay, we fired GBU-57s, we hit the pinpoint targets and hit it. But the US Air Force did not make a mention as what has been hit. In all questions being asked from the combined chief, they said, okay, look, We will hold the horses till the time the CIA says that they have been hit. We may have been waiting for an RNW confirmation that may have taken 3 months now to confirm, yes, they have been hit. And
No,
we
I
have,
asked the Americans this question. I filed a Freedom of Information Act. It's a legal process in the United States. They didn't deny it. They directed me to another agency. I sent 2 emails, with the second one being a reminder to those agencies. They didn't come back. So there was no denial. And I find that interesting. Angad, would you like to come in on this? Unlike in the case of Balakot, where the Americans actually did, through a journalist in fact, come out with a report saying that no, all the Pakistani F-16s were intact. Nothing of that sort has happened here.
That's exactly right, Vishnu. I think I think anyone trying to do a full accounting of Pakistani air assets at this point will come up short. Whether they were destroyed on the air, in the air, or on the ground, is immaterial. That they have lost hardware in this skirmish, and frankly, kill verification takes time in some cases, particularly in this one. I know General Sharma mentioned that if the missile is launched and you've seen the blip disappear on your scope and you don't find the wreckage of the missile, it's a good bet that the target's been destroyed, but you still want to go a step further. And historically, the Indian Air Force has always had fairly high standards for issuing kill claims. There are a lot of pilots in past wars who were not given credit for kills. You interviewed one of them, Flight Lieutenant Alfred Cook from 65. And Balakot was similar. You and I were both at that event where they showed us the Pakistani aircraft disappearing from the radar scope and the ESM pickup disappearing. Look, every Air Force, every country will have different standards for declaring a kill, and ours tend to be fairly tight, and some other countries, such as Pakistan, tend to be fairly loose. And so that's probably why it's just taken 3 months for us to formally issue these claims, even though, again, as General Sharma said, they've been floating around since May.
Let's cue up that picture of Balakot. If my director can just cue up that picture of Balakot and keep it ready, I'll come to that. In fact, it's there, right on the screen. And I wanted to ask that question on this to Air Marshal Khosla. The image on the left is an image which I had actually found. I had located among the satellite imagery which I was going through. And I had passed it on to those, in the loop. And then they passed, and it was with the Air Force. And the Air Force had consistently argued that, no, Vishnu, this is great because this is actually evidence of the penetration of Spice 2000 weapons, right? But then nobody seemed to buy that. Today, the Air Force chief said that in 2019 we had a problem. Nobody accepted what we were saying, but we had a lot of evidence, including human intelligence, to show that we hit that Pakistani site. The image on the right is also an image which was released today. That is the Murid K. Let's have that up full screen, please. And that image is actually interesting. Let's have it full screen, please. That image is interesting because it actually shows a single dot right inside the roof or on the roof. And the one on the left, which was Balakot in 2019, it has those 3 dots as well. If you look at it, you'd need to look 10 times before knowing what exactly it is. But the point the Air Force chief was mentioning is that in the case of penetrator weapons, you don't blow up the entire thing. So Air Marshal Khosla, this is interesting. We have other pictures of Muridke, so we know we hit. In the case of Balakot in 2019, we didn't have those. But this is how weapon systems operate. It's not necessarily a big bang as people expect.
Yeah, Vishnu, you brought a very valid point, and Air Chief also mentioned, the ghost of Balakot has been laid to rest. And we knew exactly in the whole camp, at that time, Jaish-e-Mohammed camp on Jabba Top, each building we knew what it houses, where are the 300 trained terrorists are residing, where the trainers are residing, where is the top lot when they come, which is the visiting room where they stay. All those details we knew, and accordingly the targets were selected, and we knew exactly how many weapons are being targeted at which building. And this picture which you are bringing out very rightly, the weapon doesn't, it's a very, very small hole. It just goes, penetrates, and then depending on the effect, what you need, you select that weapon. And this weapon penetrates, making a small hole and then causes a devastating effect inside, which has been proven in Op Sindoor also. Unfortunately for us, we didn't have the satellite pictures during the Balakot because of the clouding which came up. And second unfortunate part, not unfortunate, it is a reality because we chose a target which was on a hilltop and the Pakistan civilian population was not allowed there. Like in Sindoor, we got a lot of information from the videos from Pakistan itself. As far as the internal damage is concerned, people going inside these buildings and giving you videos, which were not available during Balakot.
Marshal, let me ask you this question. I don't for a moment doubt what the chief has said. He said it, it's on record, it's his credibility, and so I'm not questioning that. But there will be those people who say that where's the evidence of all of these kills? How would anybody respond to that?
No, you're talking about Balakot?
I'm talking about now.
Yeah. So, as I said, the chief also mentioned that we have the satellite pictures, we have the videos from the weapons which went in, some of them, and also we have the satellite pictures of before and after. And also, most of the claims which have been there, the ground videos which have come out in the social media are indicating...
No, sir, I'm talking about air-to-air kills.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. I mistook it from the air-to-ground.
No. So air-to-grounds are sorted, sir. He didn't need to even touch upon that topic if he didn't want to.
So air-to-air kill, I mean, he didn't elaborate rightfully, the exact details that who took on what and what happened and which weapon took on which aircraft and how many aircraft the Chinese made or the otherwise were shot down. All those details were not given and not rightly speaking, not needed also to my mind. Yeah, so now actually this is the first time I think Air Chief has spoken. So now this debate will open up and like in Balakot, it will go in different directions in the next few days. And so far we are just... reporting on Indian media, and very soon, next, I think 2 weeks, the social media as well as the foreign news channels will jump in and this topic is going to go in different directions. That's what I am expecting.
We also, in terms of evidence, do have missile tracks. Each of the missiles which were released by an S-400 would have a certain track. That track would be recorded, and that's the evidence which we have. You would see a target and the target would disappear, and that's the evidence which clearly the Indian Air Force is relying on, right?
Yeah, plus digital signatures of the clips which are there. In the integrated network now, when you're sitting in the ops room, it gives you a certain, gives you whatever the degree of percentage of the accuracy, but it gives you a digital imprint also that this is expected to be this particular aircraft. That also is there. So digital footprints are also available.
Okay. Angad, let me come to you next. China operates the S-400. India operates the S-400. China was helping Pakistan all along. Evidently, that help wasn't good enough to prevent the loss of their aircraft to Indian S-400s. Your thoughts?
Vishnu, we are all victims of physics. Some things you can't defend against. If I can see you, I can shoot you. It's that simple.
Okay. No, but keep talking, Angad. Don't restrict yourself to one answer.
Well, I mean, you have this surveillance radar, you have the engagement radar, you can look out to 400, 500 kilometers with the S-400 system, and you have these missiles that can reach out publicly known ranges are in excess of 300 kilometers. Obviously, the Pakistan Air Force is playing it safe. We saw that again, both in the air, on the ground, keeping at a distance after the 7th night, 8th morning. They essentially kept at a distance in the air, a distance that they hoped was sufficient. It didn't work. They obviously miscalculated, and the S-400s found their mark 6 times as per the air chief. And as did the air-to-surface missiles that were launched in the following 48 hours.
Group Captain Alawat, let's talk a little bit about some of the other systems which were used by the Indian Air Force. Obviously, it's not just a missile, but it's the entire radar setup of the Indian Air Force, whether it was, and it's networked to a large extent. We had a good idea of the air picture on the other side of the international boundary. How did that play a key part? The fact that we've got something called the IACCS, it's data linked and network, a system of sensors, which actually enables our warfighters on the ground to know what the aerial threat is. How is this a key part of operations?
Well, the IACCS works something like, eyes and ears. You get to see something, and through your ESM sensor, you get to hear something. And that information is conveyed to your hands, which form a punch and, deliver those effects. So all the network sensors played a key role, from the smallest to the biggest. Even civilian radars are interlinked, or no, they share information with the IACCS. With the Akash Tir that integrates army radars, feeding information to IACCS, it became all the more potent. So we could see, almost everything that went up in the air. We could target things that we wanted to target. And the situational awareness in the ops room was far, far better this time.
Let's just listen into what the Air Force Chief had to say about the use of the Russian S-400 missile system. Let's take a look.
Their aircraft tried to penetrate our defenses. Our air defense systems have done a wonderful job. The S-400 system, which we had recently bought, has been a game changer. The range of that system has really kept their aircraft away from their weapons like, those long-range glide bombs that they have. They've not been able to use any one of those because they've not been able to penetrate this system.
Air Marshal Khosla, let's talk a little bit more about the S-400. It's interesting, the S-400 is a system the Americans were most concerned about when there were conversations on whether India could buy fighter aircraft from America. The Americans, in the case of the F-35, which is a stealth platform, said nothing doing if you have the S-400. Now, we aren't necessarily buying the F-35 at all, but the fact of the matter is that the system that the Americans are so concerned about has done brilliantly well in this particular conflict.
Yeah, you're right. S-400, has done really well, and you're right about this thing. Even Turkey, their NATO partner, they didn't give them A-35 because they bought S-400. And, when we bought S-400, it's like buying a multiple umbrella and with a longer range and multiple umbrellas, multiple capability radars as well as weapon system in one. And it's part of the integrated air defense system. And when we bought it, we took into consideration the entire, requirement of the AD, and we reduced some other systems because of the system was so capable. And it is quite a capable system, and it takes on variety of targets and different ranges and different for radar pickup as well as for tracking and for missile. And it has proven its worth. And the best part is, when you deploy these systems, the enemy automatically gets pushed back. So, like Chief also brought out, and very rightly, in Balakot, they could manage to put some glide bombs on our military targets, which are about 80-kilometer range. But this time they couldn't do it because they were pushed back because of the S-400. So it's a deterrence in itself. And having said that, also these systems become the prime target during the these wars and these conflicts, because you want to blind the enemy as well as you want to attack the air defense system to create gaps also. So they become they become a target themselves also. Like we did we destroyed 2 of their SAGW systems in Lahore and one more place.
Group Captain Alawat, there's a lot to be said, would you not agree, sir, about the importance of India's strategic autonomy? I mean, it's all very well for America to say they continue to import Russian weapons, but heck, they work for us. It's unbelievably well how it's worked. So we will pick and choose what we want from wherever we want it, with obviously the priority being that we make it in India and we get our own technologies up. But that strategic autonomy as a basic policy served us well.
Obviously, see, if we still nurse the desire to be a regional power or global power, eventually we will have to start producing stuff at home. But till we get there, we will have to import. Imports are necessary evil. And where we buy stuff from depends on what we need. We buy equipment from United States, we buy equipment from Israel, we buy equipment from Russia. Obviously, we'll pick equipment that fits our needs. So yeah, you can call it autonomy, but you could also call a deficiency in our own homegrown systems. Look at LCA. First flight 2001, and in 2025, exactly, even the first 40 are not delivered.
I just wanted to go back to General Sharma in a second from now, but first let's listen in to what the Air Force Chief had to say about that interesting conversation between the Pakistani Director General of Military Operations and our DGMO. Let's listen in.
I can say that it was more of the high-tech war which was fought. In about 88, 90 hours of war, we were able to achieve, so much of damage to their system that it was very clear in their mind that in this current situation, if they continue, they are going to continue paying for it more and more. So they have come forward and sent a message again through DGMO कि हम बात करना चाहते हैं, and which was accepted from our side.
That is, General Sharma, the bottom line. It was they decided to, cut down hostilities. There's no Trump involvement or anything over here. It was their DGMO, the same DGMO who, 80 hours earlier, had told our DGMO that, no, sorry, we're going to hit you really hard. That same gentleman came back and said, no, we've had enough. That's what Op Sindoor ultimately boiled down to, right?
Okay, let me allow me to make 2-3 points before I answer your question. One is that it was an ground to air missiles which were fired, no air to air, which, as the air chief said, which is S-400, which created the envelope of 300 plus kilometers, exactly like what we thought PL-15 did for us on the first night, where they created a larger envelope for their own air defense. Now, having said that, there is also issue of authentication. Even if we had announced it on the first day that we had 5 and 6 kills done, and we are still authenticating it, that would have been sufficient of a message being conveyed that we have had air kills in addition to the ground kills which were done by the missiles on BrahMos. Two of these most success stories in this entire Op Sindoor is, one is the BrahMos, which is also a Russian origin missile. And of course, now we talk about S-400, which are also Russian origin missiles that have actually been the game changers in the entire Op Sindoor, and we must recognize it. Now, to answer your basic question about President Trump, well, I would say certainly that there was no brokering of peace. We won't say that Nawaz Sharif's visit to in Kargil times was brokering of peace when he visited President Clinton, if you recollect, on 4th of July, or subsequently when Musharraf's hands were twisted and Musharraf made a statement in Op Prakram that I will not do any terrorism. Here also there was no brokering. But the Americans did try some kind of facilitation with all the conversations that happened with Marco Rubio, or the conversation that happened with Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance. Finally, it had to be the peace had to be brought about only by the DGMO, Pakistan DGMO, having accepted that the damages being caused by the Indian Air Force to Pakistan is so credible and so large that the peace will be the only answer. So the type of facilitation that Americans were trying for 3 days wasn't exactly so successful. Mm-hmm. It was mutually between us.
All right, let's listen in also to another aspect of this. This is the political remarks obviously made by Rahul Gandhi in Parliament, saying that the hands of the Indian Air Force were tied. And here's how the Indian Air Force chief responded today.
Meaning you went into Pakistan, you attacked Pakistan, and you told our pilots, do not attack their air defense system. Meaning you told our pilots, go and attack and face the air defense system of Pakistan. Meaning you tied their hands behind their back. Because he has the blood of the people of Pahalgam on his hands, the goal of the exercise was to make sure that he used the Air Force to protect his image. The forces should be used with freedom. If you want them to be used, you want to unleash a tiger, free him. Do not tie his hands behind his back. Do not go to the Pakistanis and say, listen, don't escalate. Then go all the way. Then fight properly and defeat them once and for all.
Our objective was very clear. Our objective was to teach the terrorists a lesson that they will think twice before doing something, or they know what kind of price they can pay. And once we have achieved those objectives, we should look for all windows of opportunity to stop that, rather than just continue. We were actually on a song that night. I hear from so many people. I don't want to say that, but some people very close to me have said, "Aur marna tha." I'm telling you that. But can we continue to be at war? No. Why should we be at war when we can avoid it or we can stop it? Now we have to make sure that we remain steadfast that should we need to again do something, we are not found wanting. But what to do, that call will be taken at much higher level.
पहले 100% पॉलिटिकल विल होनी चाहिए और दूसरा, अगर आप सेना का प्रयोग करना चाहते हो तो आपको फुल फ्रीडम ऑफ ऑपरेशन देना पड़ेगा। जनरल मानेकशॉ ने इंदिरा गांधी जी से कहा कि मैं ऑपरेशन गर्मी में नहीं कर सकता हूं, नहीं करूंगा, मुझे 6 महीने चाहिए। इंदिरा गांधी जी ने उन्हें कहा आपको 6 महीने चाहिए, 1 साल चाहिए, जितना भी आपको समय चाहिए आप लीजिए, क्योंकि आपको फ्रीडम होनी चाहिए, फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्शन आपको होना चाहिए।
But there was political will. I'm being very, very candid here, very open here, because I hear various versions of it. I think if I tell you something, people will have to believe, because I was there listening to everybody, attending every meeting. There was very clear political will, very clear directions which were given to us, and there were no kind of restrictions which were put on it. If there were any constraints, they were self-made. We, the forces, decided what will be our rules of engagement. We, the forces, decided what will be the escalation ladder that we want to ride on. We decided how we want to control the escalation. So I want to make it very clear, there were no, I repeat, no restrictions on us. Full freedom was given to us to plan and execute.
Air Marshal Khosla, let me come back to you, sir. The escalation matrix itself was fairly tricky. What the Indian Air Force Chief felt obliged to actually do was go up that escalation matrix substantially. They came in with drones, right? We responded with drones, but then when they decided to send in even more drones, we hit them very, very hard. That comes with risks, but it also comes with courage and a firm idea of what the enemy is thinking or may do. How would these decisions be very difficult to take?
Yeah, so this decision is a collective decision of the hierarchy, and keeping various factors in mind. I mean, I don't want to go into full detail of it, but this is an important decision. And if you see in Ops Sindoor also, that 88 hours, 3 phases when you change it, analyze it into, we kept giving a window open for the Pakistan to stop the activities, but they kept escalating. And finally a time came when we realized that they're not taking that opportunity of that window which we are providing, and they are continuing to increase, and something needs to be done at a much bigger level to make them realize. And that is when the phase 3 happened, where the attacks on the airfield came up. Vishnu, if you give me 1 minute, what we heard Chief saying, and we discussed about Trump and this thing, I just want to bring in perspective, a much broader perspective. The India has been following this policy of strategy of punitive deterrence as far as terrorism is concerned. Uri was, rap on the knuckles, so Balakot was, slap on the face, the Ops Sindoor was, punch on the nose. Correct? So it is evolving. Now, will this, in the long run, prevent Pakistan from following its policy of bleed India by 1,000 cuts in terrorism? That is the broader question. Why I'm bringing out this is, we mentioned Trump. Now, Trump with the tariff warfare and plus, warming up to Pakistan now with having lunch with Asim Munir and, giving anti-India statements about oil refineries and whatnot. The Pakistan is getting encouraged. Asim Munir is already making statements. The next time we'll start from the east and things like that. So broader question is, what happens next? Will it prevent them from in future or not? That is a bigger question.
General Sharma, I think the Air Marshal has a key point that, Ops Sindoor we may have done really well, but it's not the end of, it's not likely to be the end of terrorism at all.
Two issues here. See, the ballistic missiles in larger way did not come into play. And we must not discount that Pakistan has got a large number of ballistic missiles, ranges up to 1,500 kilometers, and we too have it. So the war that was fought was in kind of proximity to the international border, and it was within 300 kilometers of each other, or at least that was the gap between them, and that's what we hit also. So the possibility of escalation going to Shaheen series or Ababil series or Gauri series or Ghazni series exists. We too have that kind of prowess to fire against them, and it could have escalated. It did not do so, but that the wherewithal exists on both sides to escalate, even in this manner of air warfare. So that's the one part of the story. The other issue that you are raising rightly is that there is a, whether it is a further escalation. Your question, I think, was related to escalation, was it, Vishnu? Yeah. So, see, how does it happen in matters of terrorism? Over a period of last 30 years, we know the Pakistani controls the tap of the terrorism. Sometimes it's allowed to escalate to a level where it brings it to a boil, and many other times for a couple of years they bring it down. It relates to their internal situation inside Pakistan, where it is necessary that to bind their own country, they have to create the J&K bogey and the terrorism issue and the people of Kashmir suffering to their own people.
Sure.
So presently, after this time, the tap has been little closed. So the terrorism, what has been happening...
And I think Pakistan would also know, and because our Prime Minister and everybody else have repeated this about 50 times, if you do this to us again, then we are going to hit you back. So I think that's absolutely part of our policy. Now, look, gentlemen, I'm out of time. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. It's been a fairly incredible day. The Air Force Chief coming clear with exactly how many Pakistani aircraft we shot down. There were 6 of them, 6 aircraft shot down. He stated this on record, including an AWACS platform, which is very precious. And of course, Pakistani aircraft, including F-16, likely lost on the ground as well. That's what he's also spoken about. We leave it there. A lot more coming up right here on NDTV 24/7. Shiv Arun has a very special interview as well with John Spencer on the remarks made by the Air Chief and the implications.